Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Crystal and this is Books Forever After, where I sit on my floor, we talk about everything and all things books and nothing but the books. Alright, so this is long overdue. We've been here before. But this is my top 10 romantasy books and of 2023, and yes, I know as I'm filming this is end of July of 2024, but it's just something that's been on my videos that I had a list, I created it, I just never got around to filming it because this year has been crazy for all the previous aforementioned reasons, as I mentioned in my previous videos. Just life, that's all it is. So now that I'm back to talk about this, let's just talk about these books that I just absolutely loved and devoured and just became a part of me in 2023. So we will be going, I will have timestamps down below and we're going to start by number 10 all the way to number 1. And so yeah, let's get started. Starting off with number 10 was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer, I think. And I know the sequel, Apprentice to the Villain, I think is actually coming soon. I want to say, don't quote me, I think it's in August. I'm not sure. So fairly soon, I believe. That or October. There's so many dates. Time is hard. It's hard to know, guys. There's so many new releases. So anyway, this is something that does something really interesting, and I picked it up on a whim at the library, but then I loved it so much while I was reading it that I went and picked it up at the store. Sadly, it did not have the red sprayed edges, although recently I was perusing Target and now they have the red sprayed edges that was limited. So they must have found some additional ones in their back or whatever, that kind of thing that they had in storage. So just hilarious how that happens. However, this is a fantasy rom-com. That doesn't exist, right? I love rom-coms, contemporary romances. They're not my favorite, but they are things I do enjoy, especially like back in the era of like Make Cabin, that kind of thing. But it also combines the lightheartedness and like the fantasy of like a fairy tale. It's almost very aware of itself, and also it reminds me of Princess Bride just a little bit, just because of the humor and the comedy. It's just, I'm gonna say that not everyone will like this book because it has that humor, and if you don't like that humor, then you're not going to like it. With this one, I enjoyed it, and you might like this. It's just so cute, and there's not really any spice at all. I think there's maybe one kiss scene in this book, and it's just workplace romance in a fantasy rom-com. There's a frog that holds up signs. I mean, it's adorable. It's adorable. So they had to find out in this plot, like the mole in the office, like the bad guy that's sabotaging the villain, and it is just the cutest. So I am definitely going to be picking up the book 2, and I can't wait for it to come out. And even though I loved this one, it was a 4-star for me. So I didn't have too many 5 stars in 2023 for romantasy. So these were very pared down selections of my favorites, but 4-star, highly recommend, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Next we have, now I think this is book 4. I think it's book 4. I think it's in Glow of the the Plated Prisoner series. I have the newest, I have pre-ordered these editions, and this is the New Bloom editions with the dripping gold paperbacks. Now, they're formatted a bit strange. I want to say the bigger ones are. This one's fine. It's a very short paperback, so that's kind of why it feels weird for me. But I like it. It's floppy. It's cute. But I really enjoyed this one, and this was a 5-star. I love the series, especially book 3. I think it was Gleam. It was my favorite. I just loved the ending in that one. It was just like so satisfying, and all the tension it built up. And this one was really good too. I think it was a slower pace. It was getting bigger chunk. I haven't read the 5th one yet, Gold, and the 6th one, Goldfinch, is releasing in August. So I am definitely going to reread the series. I've basically spread out the whole year. It took me a whole year to read this series, and I've taken a break since I read Glow in 2023. I think it was literally around this time, because I wanted to do a reread, and especially once they announced they were traditionally publishing this, because it was initially, I think, indie published. So really enjoy this. It's a Midas retelling that turns into something so much more, and it's really, really good. So she is gold touched by Midas in that story, but it becomes so much more than that, and it is so good. So good. And I can't even think of the premise, but all I have to say is just I love this series, and I have to say this is probably one of the series that got me really back into really enjoying reading, because I think I read this before I started reading ACOTAR, and it was just so good. I don't remember if ACOTAR came before this or after this, but it was around that time, and I was just loving it, and I still love it, and I can't wait to reread the series. Next one is Serpent and the Wings of Night. Now I don't have a copy of this, and as you know, I usually like to purchase the physical books, especially books that are on my favorites, and I do want to purchase this one, but I probably will get, it has recently since been traditionally picked up as well, and I had debated on getting either the hardcover or the paperback, so I might eventually get the paperback. I did really enjoy the series. Book 1, Serpent and the Wings of Night, was a 5-star. I did read book 2, I think the following month, and it was a 4-star for me. So I really enjoyed it. I think Crystal Broadbent does do a very good job of balancing the world building and plot with the romance as well. So I think it's fairly evenly balanced and very, very good. So this is following the heroine who, don't even ask me for names, guys. I really I'm lucky if I know my own name any day of the week. So this one is Serpent and the Wings of Night. This one starts, it's like a very Hunger Games-esque, because it is like a fight to the death. It has trials. She's surrounded by vampires. She's a human surrounded by vampires. Her father, her adopted father, is a vampire who adopted her, and so she's basically living in a very stressful environment and growing up in a very environment where she's probably like in this fight, like always having to be like very, very, oh gosh, it's very high stakes all the time for her, and she's learning to battle and things like that. And so she is encouraged by her father to kind of put herself into this trials, which is actually done by the goddess of, I think the goddess Nyx, the goddess of vampires, which is done, and whoever wins, the last person standing, she bestows a gift and such. So she's hoping to get this gift and request, I think, becoming a vampire is a vampire's like power, so that she can, survive in that whole thing. So she ends up forming a reluctant alliance, becomes friends, and then becomes lovers, and then it's just so good. And there's enemies and things involved, and she becomes this alliance is done with this other guy and his friend to kind of help each other out during the games. And so very Hunger Games-esque in that, and it is very interesting, and I liked the whole understanding the world in this, and it's very unique. And in the way that she created this, it's vampires, but yet it's done in such a way where the world has been very unique, and it's almost urban but yet historical at the same time. So very interesting, very good. It evolves into more. I do know that I think there's going to be 3 sets of duologies. So the first 2 books are Serpents and the Wings of Night and Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. And I believe there's like a novellas in between that you can read. I didn't read the novella. I think there's like 2 novellas, but then there's going to be another 2 set, and I think the 3rd one is being released this fall in 2024, so I'm interested in checking it out. And yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, really good. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend. Next is another one that I do not have a copy of yet, which is A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. Now, I did recently read I want to say she published it as like a standalone, but it's kind of like a standalone, but it's basically book 2. But this one is, I was able to read the arc on that one, but I wasn't enjoying that one as much, but I did love this one, and I do think that this one, if you like Little Mermaid and Pirates of the Caribbean, you need to read this book. So as you can tell by the cover, it's really pretty, and I really would love to get a physical copy of that. But it is really fun. It's dark. It's a very dark romance, and I am interested in reading her Dracula retelling as well. I think this was just called Blood Orange, because that looks dark as well, I hear. So A Ship of Bones and Teeth, Marin, she's basically, it's a play on The Little Mermaid, because she does, you know, make a bargain for her legs, and she takes her voice, and she eventually gets her voice back, but she basically like takes her tongue or something like that, and she does all of this. She does get married to Eric, but Eric turns out to be a not so nice guy and very abusive and such like that. So it kind of falls with that. So you find her 10 years later, and the story kind of evolves from there. And so she's just trying to make her way back to her sisters, back to her family, and she has to go find this witch so she can restore her fins, so she can go back and see her family. So, and then she meets a pirate along the way, pirate captain along the way. So it's very fun, really dark, and it just evolves, and there's a very like spoilery like surprise in it that you kind of want to go in blind just by knowing that premise. It made it so much more enjoyable, I think. Alright, next is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I mean, I'm sure this was on a lot of people's romantasy top 10 romantasies or favorites of last year. So, and I was lucky enough to have the sprayed stenciled edges. So this, I love when a book has gone like wild by storm, like hype. So this one came through, like it brought back the midnight releases like we did with Harry Potter and all that kind of, that whole taken by storm, which I really was just so much fun to be swept up in it. This was actually came out around my birthday last year in May, and I got this on my birthday, and I was just, it now is like tied to that memory, because like I love this book so much. It has, you know, I think everyone has heard of this by now, but it's, you know, basically got that Harry Potter magical school. It's got trials. It has the Hunger Games-esque kind of a thing. It's just so good, and the spice in it is so good. Oh my gosh, it's just so good, and the cliffhanger on there, it was just amazing. So yes, this one follows Violet. She has always wanted to be a scribe, and because she's also has these physical limitations and things like that, but she is forced to go into the, I want to call it like the warrior school of the academy. I think there's like 4 like separate kind of squadron things that you can do, and she has to go into the most intimidating one as well, which is the Dragon Rider Squadron. So her mother forces her to do that, which she is like the commander for this army. It's kind of like a military army kind of school thing, and where they also force the children of rebellions of the rebellion, who their parents were killed, and she meets the son of the leader of the rebellion who's at the school, because they are forced to do this dragon riding because you basically can die at any certain point. Very Hunger Games, like your first challenge, you have to walk this parapet where it kind of weeds out a lot of people because they fall to their death, because it's a very tenuous thing. And then there's also this it's a dragon rider, so there are a limited amount of dragons for everyone. So that's why there's also that battle of, you know, trying to stay alive, and also there's only dragons for so many, and when you have those dragons, they help give you some sort of power as well. So you're fighting this enemy war thing, and it opens up to a lot more wider universe as well in book 2. And book 2 is Iron Flame, and there was a lot of like mixed reviews with Iron Flame. I myself loved it. And it's a lot more involved, it's a lot bigger, and I enjoyed it so much. I will say this, that there was so much that happened in Iron Flame, and this is why I am putting Fourth Wing on, because I did love Fourth Wing even more than I loved Iron Flame, but I still loved Iron Flame so much, and I can't wait for book 3. It's going to be releasing in January of 2025, so we're really looking forward to that. And I just love books like this, and I can't wait to reread Iron Flame and probably reread this again. So that is one of my major things, is I just love to reread favorites of my books. Next is A Curse of Blood and Stone by K.A. Tucker. This is book 2 of the Fate and Flame series. Now, I don't have a copy of this one either, and I will eventually. I'm actually waiting for book 3. I have it on hold. It's like a queen of something. If I find it, I'll put it on here. But this one is just so good. It's basically like a portal fantasy. You follow the heroine in the real world. She is like a thief for hire, like she's forced to by this mafia guy, and then all of a sudden she runs into a woman at this party, and then who kind of like kidnaps her and kind of body snatches her by stabbing her in the chest, and then she transports into this body of another fae, or I think it's an elven, yeah, I think this one in their elves, this elven body of this princess that just murdered the prince's parents. So it's very interesting. And of course, in this world that you go to, humans are kind of put as second class citizens. The elven, there's some other intrigues, and you know, the enemies to lovers was enemy and to lovers. It was so good. And book 2, this one, it had some really good tension and angst, and just a little bit of like second chance a little bit because of what happened in book 1, and they kind of have to evolve their relationship, and it was just so good. Oh, it was just so good, because like they're almost, you know, that whole like almost breaking up, but yet they can't be, and because politically the relationship is like a political alliance as well. And oh my gosh, it was just so good. Now, K.A. Tucker is known for like her dark romance, this like billionaire romance that I absolutely devoured and became so, I think in 2022 it like consumed me, and that's in the summer of 2022. And I love that series too. Oh gosh, I think it's called the Wolf Hotel series. It was so good. I really want a copy of that series as well. But this, like, she can write some fantasy as well. I am just super impressed by this book and by this whole series, and I can't wait for book 4 to come out so I can read it. But first I need to read book 3. Now next is A Guardian of the Drowned Empire by Frankie Diane Malice. Now I was able to get this whole set for my birthday, hardcover. This is book 2. So I think it's Daughter of the Drowned Empire is book 1. But like they have these under pages. I just love it. And it's signed by the author. So I just love it. And this is so good. This has a very Roman Empire-esque, Egyptian-esque like mythology as well, and I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of political intrigue. There's a little bit of the trials, and what I really enjoyed about this is that she's a princess, like ish, basically. It can be a little confusing. What I really liked about this is like the author also does like a little bit of a recap in the beginning, which I just love. Like, you can skip those recap pages if you need to, but it's literally a recap so you can remember, so you don't have to do a full reread like I usually do if you want to just read the new release. I think Warrior of the Drowned Empire is releasing soon. I think it's actually I think it's next February now. It was going to be coming out in August, and I was going to do a reread just because I like to reread my favorites. As we already established. And so yeah, so this one is just so good. There is griffins, there are seraphim, I can't what they're called, but yeah, it's very, very good. So essentially there's like this forbidden magic as well, and the princess, before you can go into the school, which is where this like trial thing kind of happens, is you're either going to become a mage or you're going to become like this Saurian soldier. And in either way, you have to have magic in this society. So for Saurians, their magic is in their muscles, with the strength and that kind of thing. That's kind of where it shows itself. And then the mages, they obviously have some sort of magical powers and things like that. And every year there is like, when you turn 17, there is like this revealing ceremony that happens, and in one of these there are 3 forbidden magics and her cousin, and this one revealed to have the forbidden magic, and then she was like dramatically taken away, and then the following year like one of her sisters was revealed to have it, but it was hidden by her father, was able to hide it with his magic. And then so she has a little bit of this anxiety that she's going to be revealed as well. So then the next year it was just revealed that she doesn't have magic. So it's just, and things kind of go from there. And she has to prove herself within these trials, but then she's also paired. Every Saurian soldier is paired. I forget what they're called, but it's like a different like connection, like apprentice kind of a thing. And they're magically kind of connected, and any relationship between them is very, very forbidden. And of course, that's how everything rolls out. So it's just so good. And I have yet to read, I read the first 2, and I read the novella Solstice of the Drowned Empire, which is really pretty. I need to read Lady of the Drowned Empire, so I think I'm going to wait, probably start it maybe in December, January-ish, on my reread, and I can't wait. It's gonna be, I just love this. This is one of those that I'm surprised like it needs to be traditionally picked up. This is the author's debut series, and it was just blowing me out of the water, and I can't wait for her for this series. I can't wait to see what else she writes. So yeah, really enjoyed this. Next is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. Now I have reread this again. So this is book 2 From Blood and Ash, and I read this for the first time in 2023. I read the first 3 books, and then I read book 1 of the sister series of Fire and the Flesh series for that one. Now this year I have just recently continued my reread of book 3, because I want to just start the reread and everything like that, because I also got this whole like most of the hardback series for Christmas, and I wanted to read them. And now that I think the final book and the sister series Fire and the Flesh is going to be out next month, so I am excited to read this as much as possible again. But this is just so good. Book 2 is like my favorite. I just love all the tension and angst and just the betrayals and things like that pop up, but it's just so good. Poppy is she's always known as like the maiden, and so she has to be in a shroud all the time and wearing white and then kept away from others and basically guarded at all times for her ascension. And she decides at one point to live a little bit and goes to this tavern, and she is directed into this room, and lo and behold, there is this guard that she has been noticing, which is Hawk, and they have a almost encounter, and lo and behold, soon after, he becomes her personal guard and is replacing another guard that she had, and things ensue from there. And you start discovering things, she starts finding out things, and the reveal at the end of this was at the end of book 1 was so good, and then book 2 just carried that on for me. I just loved it so much, and it kind of opened up some things as well, and it also ended in another really good way as well. So I just love this series. I find so far, I think though, that a Fire and Flesh series, this Flesh and Fire series, is probably going to be my favorite of these 2 series. But I can't wait to finally get to read all of these series. It is just so many good ones. Okay, speaking of which, and this is A Shadow in the Ember by JLL. So this is book 1 in the Flesh and Fire series. So this is like the prequel to that one, and this has got like gods and goddesses more, and almost like a Hades and Persephone vibes as well. So really like this one. You find out what happens. Poppy finds out on that series that there was like another maiden before her, and you follow that maiden in this story, and it's just so good, so good. And Nyktos is like probably one of my favorite book boyfriends ever. So good, so good. So I'm looking forward to rereading this one as well. So definitely top tier. And lastly, no surprise, I think I probably talked about this quite a bit with April on our lives for a book club, and that is The Crown of Oaths and Curses by Bree. So we read this for our October book, and I do recommend that there is prequel. So there's The Scepter and the Sword. You have to read The Scepter at least. I think it's required reading. It's so good. This was a 6-star, and probably it was my only 6-star of the year, and it was just so good. This was it's an enemies to lovers between witches and fae, where it has a very Lord of the Rings kind of like epicness to it, and it is so good. There's enemies to lovers, but there's no lover part in this series, in this book, and it was just so good because it's hinting at the lovers part coming later, and like being built kind of spread out between the other books, which I just love that when that happens. Now book 2 has come out. We have read book 2 this year for our book club, and so I have different thoughts on that one, but I am looking forward to book 3, and I can't wait for book 3 to come. Just so I hope that it brings it home on how the epicness all the hope that I had in this one was so good. I have to say the reason why this one I think just really drove home, like the writing was very, very well done. The descriptions, especially going to the forest, like I felt like I was there. The emotional impact that it had with the tragic story that you find out, and then also just the heroine herself. She is just so badass in her stoicness. It's not like in your face, but it's just in this quiet stoicism that she portrays, and it was just so good and just like a breath of fresh air. It was just amazing, and I highly recommend this, even though book 2 I have different thoughts on. But I still recommend, and I still have hope, but it's just, oh gosh, this is so good. I just recommend this one so much. Alright, so those are my favorite top 10 romantasies of last year. So it'll be very interesting to see what will happen for this year and compare and see if they're still my favorite. So even 7 months later, still these are still, I have fond memories of these, and these are still top 10. Even though I made this list so long ago, back in January, it still rings true, and I just love these books. And I mean, they're beautiful. So beautiful. Let me know, what was your favorite romantasy that you can remember, even most recently or last year? Leave a comment down below to let you know we're here. Go ahead and leave a sword if you don't have anything you want to comment. Alright, so I will have all of my links down below. I have my Instagram, Goodreads, and Amazon wishlist. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.